But if we're talking about creating an upgrade in you and naturally becoming a person who naturally does these things, then you don't even need to know which mode you're in. You're naturally going to do what your mode is asking you to do if you're following your soul, right? This is why I call it soul modes, because it's like that soul deep driver is shifting all the time. So if you just become somebody who naturally responds to your own energetic state and does what you feel called to do, then it doesn't matter which mode you're in. You don't need to track it. Does that make sense? But for a lot of people, it just happens to be the thing that helps them start to tune into that.
Welcome to the Genius Unleashed podcast with Carly Marie. This is where we have potent conversations all around the idea of unleashing the genius within you, within me, within your clients, and within the next generation. Enjoy.
So often what will happen is your human self is wanting to kind of keep things the way that they are. Your higher self is wanting to change things. So for those who are familiar with my soul modes work, which of you here you probably are, your wild woman, she's trying to take you places, right? And that can feel scary in that moment, in that wild energy, when you haven't got all the human stuff of do as you're told, be a lady, whatever's been programmed into you that says that your wild woman isn't safe and your wild woman isn't okay. She's not ladylike, right? When you're in your wild mode. So when you're in that state, I find that in any mode I can access my higher self, but in wild mode is when it feels most potent in terms of the guidance of where I'm going. It's like I can't not be moving towards it in this very moment, you know? It's glorious. And then bear mode, and we'll talk about the genius frequencies a little bit as well, because in each of the modes we can access, we talked about activating our gifts, right? Activating our genius. And in each of the modes, we can access a different type of genius. So in our wild mode, we can access our visionary genius, right? So it's really that creative director stuff. It's like, this is what we're doing and this is where we're going. Like your creative director is really fired up in wild mode. And then that's our visionary genius. So it's when we can really quite clearly see where it is that we are to go and what we are to create. The problem is when we've got a whole bunch of human self stories that this society has told us about ourselves and has programmed us to be. So our higher self is kind of sitting in the background going, do this, do this, do this. And the creative genius is just like, hang on, I can't say that. What will people think? We can't do that, right? So that going around of, I can't say that, we can't do that, you can't make that pink, you can't make that bigger, right? And the creative director is going, do it, just do it, trust me, just trust me. And our higher self is going, but, right? So human self stuff and higher self stuff will show up in every mode, but it's almost like that higher self genius is coming through in different ways. The creative director is trying to do different things. So in visionary, we're going to dive deep into the genius frequencies. We're going to do some big exploration work around that. But I wanted to really touch on the genius frequencies here because I think it helps give context to how the higher self, human self stuff works. So when I think about wild mode and that visionary genius, the value of what we can access in that state is quite mind-blowing. And it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily be across your modes and know which mode you're in when, but you'll know when you're in that state of like, oh, like when you are finding yourself a bit shouty or a bit sweary or a bit frustrated. You might find you can get frustrated in any mode, but if it's kind of that shouty, sweary, I can't stand this another second, like that, that's when I often know that it's wild mode. And that's when I'm like, okay, what I'm seeking here is freedom. And something about this situation right now doesn't feel like freedom because my visionary genius is trying to tell me where I'm supposed to go, but I'm surrounded right now by evidence that I can't do that, right? There's things in the way I can't. Like the other night when my kid was taking forever to go to sleep and I just wanted to write. I just wanted to channel that fiery energy into my journal. I just wanted to write or write a post or whatever. I didn't even know what it was, but I needed to write. And I felt like my kid not going to sleep was the thing that was in the way of that. And I was getting really frustrated. And then I hit bear mode and just felt absolutely horrendous about how I was like, no, I can't lay with you. I've got things to do, right? And then I felt awful about that. So it's like, okay, higher self, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this differently? Because I'm not willing to have those kind of situations where I have to feel awful. Let's change this. How am I going to do this? How am I going to create more freedom in my day to write so that it doesn't feel pent up by the end of the day? So how am I actually going to structure my day so there's a lot of room to breathe for me to write, for me to do that work, for me to feel like I've connected to my creative director and that I've done my beautiful creative work. And you don't have to be a creator, like as in a writer, or everybody's a creator. You're creating your life, right? This isn't just about writing or live streaming or whatever, but it's like that expression, right? So wild mode is that visionary genius. Bear mode is that spiritual genius. So what happens is our creative director is really doing some beautiful work around clearing out what's in the energy field that shouldn't be there, that doesn't sit there anymore. So when we're in our bear mode, again, a whole bunch of society storage which says you can't just chill out and rest and do nothing. You've got things to do. You don't chill out and rest until you've done all the things you need to do. If you've got things to do, well, here's the thing. Is there ever a point in your life where you don't have things to do? Like, that doesn't exist, right? There's always things to do. So if you've got things to do and you're not allowed to rest, that story has got to go. Like, that story has got to go. You can have a million things to do. If you've got a lot to do, probably even more reason to rest or do whatever it is that your bear mode is asking you to do. It's a power down, right? So a power down to you might look like a nap. It might look like a walk on the beach. It might look like sitting in the bottom of the shower and crying and having a big release. It might look like an orgasm. Like, it might look like anything. It's like, what is the power down to you, right? I love an afternoon nap. Some people can't stand an afternoon nap. Often for me it's a bath, things like that. But that's the thing, is that spiritual genius of working on your energetic field. Here's the thing, is it happens naturally when you let it. It just naturally happens. And then we move into our super mode, which is our logical genius. So if you think about the problems that need to be solved and things like that, we can see methods and we can see patterns. So then therefore we can solve problems and we can create systems and processes and things like that. The trouble is when you let that part of you lead, right? But if we're talking about creating an upgrade in you and naturally becoming a person who naturally does these things, then you don't even need to know which mode you're in. You're naturally going to do what your mode is asking you to do if you're following your soul. Right? This is why I call it soul modes, because it's like that soul deep driver is shifting all the time. So if you just become somebody who naturally responds to your own energetic state and does what you feel called to do, then it doesn't matter which mode you're in. You don't need to track it. Does that make sense? But for a lot of people, it just happens to be the thing that helps them start to tune into that. So the genius frequency, so that's our logical genius. So that's when we can, really see patterns, and it's quite an amazing genius, our ability to problem solve and things like that. But again, when we shift the human self stuff out of the way of masculine, create systems, and all we end up doing is creating lists and checklists of the lists that we've got, and we alphabetize our spice cupboard, and we do all the things that humans pat you on the back for doing, and then that logical genius is wasted on just lists and lists and lists, right? When actually it could be used to just do genius things and create new methodologies that change the world, right? But you can't do that when you're sitting in your spice cupboard. Then we move into our vibrational genius. So we're going to spend a bit of time on each of these in visionary, but I think it's really cool to understand the concept that this is a thing. The sparkle mode genius is the vibrational genius. So we can walk into a room and we can change the vibration of a room when we're in sparkle mode. It's quite amazing because we're so present, we're so piercingly present. But the beautiful thing about sparkle mode, for those who want to be able to create their life, which is what we're here to do, is that in sparkle mode we're so easily able to connect with desire. We're so easily able to daydream and imagine the things that we want and feel nothing but love and joy around it. The challenge with sparkle mode that blocks us from our vibrational genius is when so with sparkle mode, our energy field gets bigger. This is kind of how I picture it. Is in bear mode, it's like this, we're here. In sparkle mode, it's like this, it's like everyone else. matters. Everyone is here. I can feel everybody. I want to know what they're doing. You go find other people in the house and go like, what are you doing, right? Like our energy field is bigger. So if there are people in our energy field whose energy isn't high, like a high vibe, let's say, then that can have an effect on us and we can feel really super sensitive, which of course gets us all caught up in that instead of focusing on our vibrational genius when we've been taught that other people's feelings matter more than ours, right? And as mothers, it's a big thing, right? When we've been taught that other people's feelings matter more than ours, then we forget that we have the ability to shift the energy and to actually share our positive energy with other people rather than being affected by their negative energy. So doing this work around having, what keeps coming to me is sharp mind, open heart, clear energy. Clear energy means that my field isn't getting filled up with worry and doubt and other people's stuff and things, like content in my energy field, that it's clear. And then therefore when it's clear, I'm a clear channel to hear my soul, literally to hear my soul. So what we want to do is create a habit of listening to your soul, create a life that has space for your soul, right? So that listening to your soul isn't just one of those things that there's a whole industry telling you that you should be doing, and then you just feel bad that you're not doing more of it because you're caught up in the day-to-day of life and you've got things to do. And once you've finished all the things to do, then you're allowed to stop and have some time with your soul, right? So what we want to do is set up your life to make that easy, because as I said, the most powerful progress doesn't happen through dogged dedication, I don't believe. I think it comes through just becoming and deciding to be someone who naturally does those things and continually coming back to higher self, continually coming back to soul.
I hope you loved this episode. If you did, you will absolutely adore Formidable Women. Formidable Women is a beautiful online space that I created that is for the women of the world who want to be more powerful, more courageous, and more clear as they move forward in their lives and make a positive impact in the world. You can check it out at carlymarie.com/formidable. It is a monthly membership and anytime, and it gives you access to my entire suite of online courses for the time in which you are enrolled, as well as live new content every week. I would love to see you join us and be a part of that beautiful community. Head to carlymarie.com/formidable.